So let's try again. Jinbei is on the Sneeds, and his results have not been good in this tournament so far. A lot of 6th and 7th.
Sneed. I keep saying it every time, and you haven't picked up on it yet. The minion was Sneed's old shredder, the old shredder that belonged to Sneed. This is Sneed.
I understand. He's got an old shredder.
He has got an old shredder.
He's also got an elemental.
It barely does crosscut anymore. It gets jammed up when you put anything. It's just a useless shredder.
Yeah, you just don't want to shred anything with it at all. But it does drop an
awful
lot of death rattles.
Hang on, he did the thing!
Yeah.
He's a Cell Hero Power gamer. Very interesting. Obviously, this gives you theoretically more power on turn 1. It allows you to do some damage. I guess queuing into Yogg, the fear is that you'd actually take damage there with just a Cell Elemental on board, so he was trying to play around that. But that is 1 gold that he's not going to be able to spend later. Meanwhile, Yunjoy is on the Yogg, picking up a pretty sick double token start, which actually opens up the possibility for cheating a level or just going outright aggro Yogg here, and she chooses to go aggro Yogg instead, picking up maximum tokens on these turns. Oh, this is a lobby! This is a lobby, Lorinda! Murloc's in, Beast in, and Elemental's in as well. And from what I'm seeing up at the top, that is what? Demons, Pirates, Dragons band, which means the Mechs are hanging around to deal with all this nonsense as well with the Mechano tank. This is the lobby we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I know. Right from the start. Oh, what is going on? There's tokens on the... Everybody's got the tokens as well as them being in. Like, everybody got loads of tokens. And I'll be interested to see how Yunjoy does, actually, because she's been a token enjoyer and doing well with them, even in the other lobbies. She sort of likes that curve where she just gets to get lots of money early on, and she tends to stay low curve as well. So on that Yogg, going to be interesting to see how she develops. But yeah, you're going to get to talk about as much milking as you want to in this.
Hey! I hope you like the word milk, chat, because you're going to hear it a lot. Those are 2 Elementals in shop for Collins. That is huge. He already has a pair locked up with the Micro Mummy as well. Now we're seeing the full breakdown of the heroes on the left. You've got to say what DeLonge probably hit the low roll here. Patchwork stands out this one by a lot. Dog has George on a pretty good George lobby, I would say. He has the option of going Murlocs. He also has the option of going Quillbores, but Mechs not being in does reduce his ability to get like Respot, for example, and actually pump up the stats on any Divine Shield minions that he throws out. But I think overall, good to great heroes all around, apart from DeLonge on the Patchwork, and then some mid-tier stuff, I suppose, with the Yogg and the Vol'jin on Bill and Yunjoy as well.
2 comments there. First of all, Collins is on Reform, and we have seen everybody has the same board. So
True,
he is going to get triple after triple after triple unless things go terribly wrong. And secondly, we see that Patchwork for DeLonge. DeLonge's results haven't been particularly great in this tournament so far. Again, sample size is a thing. We have to be careful. But Patchwork is a way to get yourself up that leaderboard into sort of the mid-tiers and just take a 5th or 4th place and get out.
Yunjoy going level freeze. I do wonder whether this is just worth taking now, getting the 4-drop on board immediately. The benefits of which being you don't have to waste the 1 gold on a shop, and you can just see the straight up level 3 shop next turn. You can just let it roll. If you do hit a scaler, you can then quite easily spend your next turn just spending all of your gold on milking food, right? You can just aggressively look for acolytes and death rattles and what. Hello? Sorry? Excuse me? Are you okay, Battlegrounds?
Bob's got a surplus. He's just been storing these up for years. Now he's trying to sell them all in one go to unsuspecting customer.
Okay, what was I saying before that happened, and was it important? Probably not.
Important right, compared to that board.
Yeah, okay.
Goodness. Right, Sneed himself is
there you go,
lining up a board of death battles nice and early. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out, because you commented about the thing and then I cut you off, but it is a big deal to give up a gold for this death rattle that becomes out of date quickly.
It does, yeah, because not only do you straight up just get higher value death rattles, you will want to sell those lower value Death Rattle minions at some point. Not only because you want to sell things to get more gold back, because that's how the game works, but just having a low value Death Rattle minion on the board actually costs you stats most of the time. DeLonge hits our first light spawn of the game that we've seen on the left hand side, by the way. But just to finish the point, you want to get rid of those low value Death Rattles so you actually have room on your board for high value Death Rattles from your bigger stuff. You don't want these little garbage minions going off unless you're just straight up playing like Mechano tank build, right? And then you just want any kind of Death Rattle you want, stodging things up for as long as possible.
DeLonge got greedy there. She sold off for another triple this turn. Obviously, we've discussed it quite at length, but when she picked up that light spawn, the eyes lit up. It's like, oh, let's try and get another one, because 4s tend to be better than 5s as a general rule. We all know about general rules often being wrong. When she saw that first one, she's like, okay, I can sell board. I'm on a high health hero. Let's see if I can absolutely just knock this out of the park. She didn't pick much up with that second triple into the 4th.
And there we see the exact two types of people. Sorry, I mistakenly as well was saying earlier that Mechs weren't in when I said quite the opposite earlier, which is my mistake. Yeah. It's no, you can always correct me. It's such a rare opportunity to
I'm going to correct you if I don't make the same mistake. I just
that you should just leap upon it. But yes, actually this is a really good George lobby, just reassessing what I was saying about Dog at the time with the lobby setup that he had for George. It's actually an incredibly good George lobby overall.
Collins is just going full greed here, I think. Is he going to go for 6s? He's got enough health. He's going to hit more triples. He's seen the state of this lobby now. Can he go for 6?
He's thinking about it. He's certainly thinking about it. The thing is, he's already done the thing into the 4, right, and already picked up the Mechano tank, which means that he's fine for tempo for some time, so he can choose to go for big greedy win condition if he really wants to. Jinbei on Sneed, super important when you triple into your 4 that you are hitting one of those Avenge minions, because you are the best milker in the entire game when you are playing Sneed. And immediately, love his recognition, love his priorities, forget about everything else. How do I put taunts on my board and just make sure these Death Rattle chains start to go off? Because as long as he can line this up in a way that his Death Rattles keep proccing, he's going to keep 7 minions on the board for a very, very long time and really maximize the amount of milk that he's getting from that Witch Wing.
And I think we are going to get to see the meta thing we talked about there. I think there's 3 players on tanks, if I've observed it correctly, which, sometimes is right. And we've got the rest on very high quality Avenge strats, but with the elementals in, and they've had a very fast start. It's going to be a battle of the tank versus the milk here, I'm pretty sure. Which is weird, right? You want to milk into your tank, but that's not quite how it works out.
Yeah. Patchwork here, for DeLonge, still taking a little bit of time to set up with that light spawn. You see the look on Slyssa's face. She knows that she is in a little bit of trouble here. As you were saying, basically everyone else has a plan, be it a straight up win condition plan with the light spawns, or with the Witch Wing Nest Matron for Jinbei looking to tempo out with that Sneed, or everyone just having the hardcore tempo tanks. Slysssa has none of that. She's just kind of on her own, slowly dying as an eagle over there, and that's in stark contrast to the way that Slyssa's tournament has gone so far. I think she has been one of the overall most consistent performers. Hasn't been hitting those big spikes and those big lobby wins as much as some other people have, but yesterday I believe she went, third, fourth in her 3 games that we watched her play yesterday, which is an incredible level of consistency overall.
Collins went for the 6. He couldn't resist. I was going to mention that I don't think he'd be... If he gets it in his head, he's going for a 6. I don't think Collins in particular is going to turn that down. He likes to go up through the Tavern tiers as quickly as possible. He's a very... It's the opposite of aggressive in some ways, but he levels aggressively if he gets the opportunity. And like you pointed out, with the board he had and the way it was going, he did have that chance to go for a 6 early.
Yeah, I think in particular, a Mega Buster was such a good hit for him that it was worth going for, because, look at the board he left himself behind while going for that 6. 4 mechs, one of which with Divine Shield, one of them still being a tank as well. He can quite easily take in a Mega Buster there, be strong for another 2-ish turns, just purely based off that Buster, and then by using the tank to defend with tempo, he can spend a lot of time looking for Barons and modules and mech crawls and all the extra things that you want to spend off finishing off that comp.
Looking down
Doesn't
the
get
right-hand
it, takes
side.
a consolation prize instead with the Foe Reaper.
Unjoy has a deceptively good board, I feel, here. It can go in a lot of different directions. It's going to have the time to do so on this Yogg. But she has run into this to improve monstrously over that turn. Did pick up the Light Spawn, which obviously a little bit slow, but she has all the death rattles to back it up. So Slysssa may have stabilized it.
Yeah, we will see. The big issue is, of course, that she doesn't have the health to actually spend milking here. She just kind of has to go straight up for being strong, which means the amount of total procs that she'll get off that Light Spawn might be a little bit more limited than other people. Does take a hit again, but almost always going to be a non-factor here. She was usually going to be in one-shot range to her next loss anyway. Also got a snapshot of Dog's board there on the George, who was, I believe, Colin's opponent. Dog has everything you want as George at this point in the game. He has the Gem Splitter and he has the Grease Bot, which is the perfect setup for George. Golden Gem Splitter now, in fact, and the Pig to go with it. This is the kind of George board where every opponent for the rest of the game could play Ghoul against you, and you probably still win the lobby if they don't get too thick, because you actually output so many raw stats now with your Blood Gems and your Grease Bot that the mere fact that they have to sell a real minion and play a 1-3 instead by putting a Ghoul on the board actually just works to your benefit because your stuff gets too big. Dog is in really good shape here, even to compete with some of these potential huge Lightspawn players that we're going to see a few turns down the line.
It's also a very Dog kind of board where it can still go in several directions despite the obvious game plan. There's still 2 or 3 slots he can maneuver around in. And an average player like myself might end up getting into a pickle later on, but Dog will turn this into a monster over the next few turns. Probably with, I'd like to see how he maneuvers the gems around in particular, and where he decides, how he decides to use the available 2 or 3 slots. Bill just going for maximum tempo on the left. He was doing the thing you were talking about a lot yesterday, making sure he didn't waste gold. Obviously, that's a straightforward concept, but sometimes not easily done. So he just stopped on 2 gold, had a long to work out how he would use that piece of gold so he didn't get tangled up and waste money.
Yes, indeed. These tanks, how exactly these intervals work on these shots from the tanks is going to be huge, because you can see right now, for example, the Quillbore is getting to be the biggest thing on board. Now the Grease Bot is getting to be the biggest thing on board. But yeah, okay, he manages to get full value out of everything before those shots go down, which is the only real relevant factor here. I imagine, unless I have criminally misread the situation, that he was always going to be losing this fight. Which, yes, does seem to be the case. Yes, indeed. He was just, from Dog's perspective, looking to make sure he got the maximum juice out of his Blood Gems and his Grease Bot before those tanks shot them down. And for his perspective, that's a big win. That is a big loss, though, for Slysssa, who goes out with Eagle in 8th place. And DeLonghi hits Golden Lightspawn into a Dream Elemental Discover with the Nomi as well. This is ludicrous scaling. Still 29 health to play with if she does want to focus, hyper-focus on milking here. She can stay very weak for another turn or 2 and really milk that Golden Lightspawn if she wants to.
So we haven't talked about this exact case that much. You've talked about how with a Lightspawn you don't pick up the Elementals, but with a Nomi for backup, you can kind of do both things at once, right? You can pick up the Recycling Wraith and sort of go through some of these 11-11s to keep yourself alive, but then you don't milk, or you can go the other way and just milk, and hope that your Nomi's good enough later when the Lightspawn stops doing its job.
Yeah, I think slowly transitioning over to the bigger Elementals is a decent idea now. She can choose to pick up the one more Elemental here. The fact that it is the Refresh Elemental as well is huge. That is the missing piece of the puzzle now. She's now going to be able to cheat so much gold with that over the coming turns. But she wants to keep... I would then say make the rest of your board as weak as possible and keep the Death Rattle minions, which she is doing with the Sewer Rat and with the Egg. That's a few procs. I think she also wants to move the Nomi up to the left-hand side of her board so she gets the death off that, which she's not doing here, which I'd have to say was a mistake.
Seeing Tyler's board for the first time in a while. He's on tank build. That's the only way I can word this these days. I know there's a green thumb in there, so it's technically an Avenge build, but this is tank build. This is survive and see what happens.
Indeed. Yeah, and survive he will. This is Not looking good in terms of a W against Collins on the Reform here, but I think he will at the very least survive, although that Genie and that Cleave are going to have a little something to say about it, I think.
Yep, that can drop some lethal damage down, but no, he's escaped everything.
Yeah, big deal with the shots clearing up a lot of those 6 drops along the way. That is a reasonable looking drop though, free Smogger for Collins on the Reform while he's on Tavern 6 is a very big deal.
Collins has just got infinite money on the top level as well. He's going to be the one that emerges to challenge Dog quite likely here. I don't know what's happening here, but we knew it was going to. Dog has got everything going on here.
Golden Selfless. Things are getting big. Everything that he needs. Takes the Chalga to go alongside. That's +2/+2 to everything per turn. Just dump all your blood gems, no big deal. He's dumping them all onto individual targets as well, onto the minions he wants to protect, which is a good idea. Doesn't really care too much about everything else dying after it's done his work, but he wants to protect that grease spot and that gem splitter for as long as humanly possible, so that's where everything's getting dumped.
Bill's had a fairly tough game of blocking his board whenever it pops up, obviously. And very early on, he had to choose between a tank and a recycling wraith on his triple. And obviously, he's ended up with gold and tank out of it, but not a lot else going on there. Even though it looks nice, it looks like, hey, this is a great Mechs build. Actually, it's just a mediocre Mechs build, is it not?
It's a very mediocre Mechs build, yeah. It's kind of halfway. It's in the stages of transitioning from tempo murder tank board into Omega Buster board, right? Because you can see the death rattles are disappearing a little bit. He still has the reborn taunt, but there aren't that many tokens on his board to die for the tank. He's instead looking to set up for that Omega Buster later on, but he's still some way away from getting there.
They might be relying on Sneed doing his business. He needs an upgraded shred, I think. Dog is just so outstanding here, even with a potential lumpy drops with the Baron and with the Death Rattles. Jinbei, he is still trying to milk that Nest Matron, but he might die here.
Oh, every time. I think every time we've seen a Sneed get a Baron or a Khadgar on stream, it has just been getting smacked. First vulnerable hit in basically every fight that we've seen. But again, I talked about it earlier. You can look at the board that Dog has now and just give each one of his opponents a ghoul, and he's probably still winning. He has that many stats in play.
The scary thing is he is going to kill people very high totals as well. They're high-cost minions. It's not just he's got a board of really well-built 1 and 2 drops somehow. He's just going to hurt people. Take 15, unlucky. Like, that's just going to be the story of whoever faces him for the next few turns. Hello? How many triples?
I mean, do you even need the triple? Like,
you take it in case you hit another Nomi?
Yeah, but you're probably better off maximizing the number of actual elementals that you play, right? Like, a fraction of a chance to get a second Nomi is not worth playing less elementals, I don't think. DeLonghi does look like she is going to go for max triples here. You don't actually miss that many. You don't miss this many. You don't actually miss that many Ellies by doing it this way around, though, like in the long run, right? Because you can play this Ellie, you can actually play your 1 droplet on board at this point to get the extra Nomi buff, then sell the 62-62. But as you are pointing out, it is a 62-62. Like, do you really want to sell it out at this point?
Maybe
Probably
later.
Not. Maybe later, indeed.
Yeah, my instinct was, look at the 2 triples, but no, look at the 62-62 that's going to keep you alive and enable you to build even more. Most likely, and nobody's managed to assimilate any poison yet.
I was critical of the positioning earlier. I think this is much, much better from DeLonghi now. She knows she's queuing into Mechs, so having the bumper up first makes sense. You do, I think, in my opinion, want then one big, thick attacker to actually do some serious damage to something, get a kill. But from that point, I think you want to go back to Avenge-style positioning, which is what she's done with the Nomi up front to have things die. But as you can see, it looks like DeLonghi is going to go down here to the refarm on Collins, who just had enough tempo together with those mechs, with that Omega Buster. As I was saying earlier, he had the dream Omega Buster board, found the Buster, paid it off, and just was not able to get there with the scaling was DeLonghi, even though she had everything available to her in the end.
Yeah, Collins' decision to take that stick is starting to look like it's going to pay off absolutely. Reminder that they do get an extra point for winning the lobby on top of the regular point, so that is a factor in anyone's decision when it's going to go right the way up or not. And Collins is not going to turn that down for next time.
More damage coming through from Dog, just Dog doing Dog things, winning every fight, as I called out early on. Like, after I'd got the lobby wrong and recorrected it, I said this is a fantastic Dog lobby, and then he hit basically everything, and then from that point forward, he has just been the absolute killer in this lobby so far. Everyone else is just living on borrowed time, waiting to see if they can come up there against Dog. And even with, for example, the second strongest player in the lobby, let's say, if you want to say that that is Collins, Collins can't even really buy a ghoul to set up against Dog, because it's actually quite damaging to his own board as well, and is only a very small net positive, I would say. So this is very much looking like a Dog lobby from this point onward.
We're going to get a glimpse into that now, because they are facing off. Dog against Collins. You can see there on the left, he's facing the farm. So the battle for first and second and the battle for third and fourth are both going to take place here. But it could change, because Dog could just kill Collins, although I don't think he will.
So how much damage does he actually have on board in total? That's 5, 7, 8, 12, 15, 20, 24, plus he's having 5? Yeah, so literally everything would have to live, right, to make that happen. Does seem a tiny bit unlikely.
Pretty large going into this himself. It's not like it's going to occur. We are going to get a view into this. Who's scaling fast? I think it's also Dog, and it's got golden balance.
Yeah, I mean, in the truest sense of the word, Collins isn't scaling from this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, he actually needs to hit to improve his board, whereas Dog just passively gets bigger every single turn. So Collins will need big high rolls, Golden Buster, Golden Baron to actually have meaningful improvements.
That's the worst passive I've ever heard, even though
yes.
there's nothing passive about all these aggressive gems.
Passive-aggressively getting bigger every single turn.
The expected outcome, but also Collins showing how strong he's looking very much like the first second there. Jinbei getting absolutely wiped out here by Bill.
Which means it's a 1-2-3 for Americas. Once again, they are putting in a sick performance in Battlegrounds. They have really carried the region, have the Battlegrounds team so far, and once again, they won't know this yet again. Remember, the players do not know who is who until the end of each lobby, but they will get the good news very, very soon that they have once again absolutely crushed this lobby.
I just love how all the other players are like, oh my goodness, this is exciting, this is nerve-wracking stuff, and Dog just wants his 9 points to start the next lobby. He's bored out of his brain. Just give me the points, I can't lose this. Do I really have to put these gems on these stupid minions? Why do I get 10 gems every turn? I don't want them anymore. He's almost pointing them at random at this point, trying to keep everything exactly the same.
Meanwhile, Bill is going digging for triples. He's in a very similar spot to where Collins is, right? His power level, I think, overall is somewhat weaker, but he needs to be digging for these tools. I think you saw the fist pump come out there as he finally hits his Omega Buster. He is some way behind where Collins is in terms of actually putting together this big power scaling comp. But at least finding the Omega Buster here gives him some hope, because remember, he does still have a decent tempo advantage because of that golden tank that he has on the far right, which can create some crazy snipe situations when it comes down to a board that is going to be a little bit fragile from Collins here, at least until that first Buster goes off.
I feel like even without knowing who he's against, Bill is just going to be delighted with wherever he finishes, third place, second place, whatever it ends up being. He's not had an easy run in this game. He's had cards, but everybody got things handed to him in this game. And Bill's kind of had to just play for tempo to stay alive pretty much every turn for quite a while. He's just done the limp your way up the leaderboard.
Yeah, I think he did it well. Obviously, Golden Tank has something to do with it as well, but I did get that impression every time I looked over at Bill's board. It's like, wow, this is still alive in this lobby, which is, you know, probably a testament to how well he has been hanging in there up until this point. But Yes, once again, Dog is still looking very much like the king of this lobby as Collins and Bill are scrapping it out for the remaining food left on the table.
Just if Collins does find a way, now he's got the double mech wall, he can go for a wall and have some sort of action going on.
Yep,
so that's
fair.
going to be his plan.
Yeah, no, I like that plan. I think that makes a lot of sense as well. Putting the Annoy module just on the Buster, for example, he could then still get a second Buster into play to allow for his parrots, and then any Divine Shields that he lost would not be a big deal, with the Divine Shields then being gained from the Buster. But actually, that thought not even occurring to me, the fact he picked up Golden Buster off the fight against Bill. Once again, that was not handed from one to the other as two teammates who knew they were teammates would have absolutely done in a refarm situation. That was a happy accident, and all the happy accident does anyway is help, you know, America's on America's violence here between the two players that are left, so ends up being fairly irrelevant.
Collins deep in thought. Dog's looking at something in this shop with vague interest and slight at least.
Baron, yeah. He has enough blood gems that he can potentially counteract a big Baron on the other side with a big zap of his own. That's kind of what he's doing, just trying to work out where his break point is, how big he wants his zap to be. And he says, big, actually, as big as humanly possible, trying to play around as many break points as he possibly can.
Collins has just stared at this board for a good 30 seconds there, presumably looking at that Kangors, whether it's something that can actually help him.
No, it can't. You can only, when you're playing Buster build, you can only be one or the other. You can be Parrot or you can be Kangors. You can't be both, and he's way too deep into Parrot build. But seeing the zap on the other side, seeing the way he's set up, that is going to be a snipe on the Baron. That is going to be a basically guaranteed lethal from this point, I would imagine. Tracker up there says 70% lethal for Dog, but Dog went first, which I would suspect turns that 70% into 100.
Makes a lot of sense. And it play out. Collins, nice recognition to switch comp, or try to switch comps, recognizing not that he was in trouble so much, but recognizing he was going to third place match anyway, and using that time. But yeah.
I'm just laughing. Look at the size of his stuff again. Just imagine if he got gold every single round, he would still have this board with this number of stats on it. George in this lobby, in a Quillbore Mechs lobby, is disgusting. However, if you take those things away from him, he's very, very bad.
Size check. What does that mean?
Size matters, so people can check out what size they are by typing the command size. See if they're chonkers or dinkers or average or growers or showers.